All right, so going back to this kind of unpacking the multi-view drawing type of unit. In class, we launched these three right here, and this was all on the multi-view day one example file. These again, for turning these in, these are for completion only. This just gives me an opportunity to give feedback on what you need to work on, what you're doing, etc., what you're doing well, what you may need to give another look at. These two, again, I would hold off on these until you're ready. They will be assigned coming up, but these will be for accuracy as well. So, and I will demo all of these via video. Now, what I did this morning before I did this, I said, and I'll just say it over and over again, anything you can do to create a visual aid or a cheater for yourself is key to this, to understanding it, especially if you have a problem or difficulty in visualizing things and rotating objects in your head or adjusting your perspective to see what an object would look like from a flat or head-on perspective. That's why these little stick men are here, to try to illustrate, again, what do I see if I'm standing in the front? This is the guy standing in the front. Or I'm sorry, this is the guy standing in the front. This guy is standing on the right. This guy is hanging from the ceiling looking down at the top. I'll keep saying over and over again that getting the pencil moving is really your number one best helpful tool in doing this, okay? If you don't have, I shaded these, so I could say, okay, everything from the top is green, everything from the right is yellow or gold or whatever, and then everything from the front is purple or purplish blue on these three. And if you don't have color pencils at home, you can do 100 things. You can make tick marks, you can make circles, you can make squiggly lines, all with the same color pen on each one of these faces to kind of help you through it, okay? Comparing these first three over to these last two, you should see one thing that's very distinctly different, and that is that there's multicolored shading on the top of this, and that is because this portion that slants upward is visible from not only the top as well as the front. And again, on this one, same thing. This upward sloping portion is visible from, yes, it's visible from the front, but it's also visible from the top. And then the same thing here, as this slants out to the right or angles out to the right, you can see part of that from the front, but you can also see it from the right. So that's where they get a little bit more complicated. But I think actually when you draw them, they're a little bit possibly easier to do. So again, we did these couple in class, and I was just going to attack this one this morning for you. And again, if you want to think about this as in terms of, go with the biggest thing. So in this case, maybe this will make a little bit more sense. So this object, I'm actually seeing the front from over here, and I'm seeing the left from over here, and the top is green. Okay, so left in this case is, or front in this case is, I'm sorry, say that again. Left in this case is purple, front is yellow, top is green. Okay, so in looking at that, I'm going to go ahead and start with the left side first in this case. And I'm going to go with the biggest anything that's purple. So if I look in this in terms of width and height, I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So this is 12 wide by, let's see how high it is, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 tall. Okay, so on my object line layer, I can just go ahead and say, all right, I'm going to come, see, down 8, and I'm going to go over 12. Now what happens when I get over to 12, down to the end of here? I can't see from this side, if I'm looking straight on, necessarily that this is pushed back. I'll see a line, but I won't necessarily, but it really makes no difference at this point. So here I say, okay, I'm going to come up 3, and then over 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I see another change. So I come up 3, and I come over 4. When I get to that point, let's see what happens next. So I zoom in, I go up another 1, 2, 3, and I go over another 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I come up 3, over 4. So far it's looking like a staircase. And if I've done everything correctly, I should have 2 left. And you see, I don't have 2 left because if well, let's see, maybe I do. Yes, I do. So if I hit 2, these two things, the top of this line and the top of this line should line up. And this would also, I could type in 4, or I could just connect the dots, okay? Now what you'll notice here is if I go over 4, this is the end of this kind of first block of the object. So my easiest thing I could do is really I could just go ahead and delete this. I could use my offset tool. Okay, remember offset's a couple under your erase button. You click offset. It asks you, you got to follow the command window. It says, what's the distance? I type in 4. 4, enter. And I select what I want to offset, and I pick the side I want to offset it on. Do I see anything else in this that makes any changes? Nope. So does this look like, separate these pieces out, what are your 2 purple shapes? If I look at everything that's purple that's divided right now, I have a purple rectangle over here, and I have this purple kind of L-shaped thing over here. Okay, these are just sketches of it. Does this look like this when I stick them together? Yes, it does. Okay, so now I'm going to take this and I'm going to go move it down a little bit. And now I'm going to go ahead and move on to the front. Okay, I could move on to the top just as well. In fact, I think I'll do that. So what I said, you know, a really nice thing that I'd like you guys to do is grab a construction line. You can stick it in there at any distance you like. And that's just to create some separation between the objects, but really it's to line everything up, which as you go forward, you'll find having things lined up is really helpful. Okay, so let's look at the top of this. All right, how wide is the object overall? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So from the end of here, so from this corner, if I go back 8, that puts me at this corner of the object right here. Okay, and now what I can see is there is an overall of the object. We already know that the longest the object is, right, when we came along the side that was purple, I think it was 12, okay? But it looks like it doesn't go all the way forward here. It's 2 back. So in this case, I could just count all of these green edges, all of these green along this edge, and all of these green. And what I'll find is I have 10. So I can go down 10, into, and over 2. Okay, so let's see what happens. Over 10, down 2, over 2. You can see I'm not even actually looking right now. This is kind of a good test to see if my everything lines up. Now I come down 1, 2, 3 this way. What happens after I've come down 3? So now I'm at this point. I go back how far? Yeah, the top of this only goes back here and it steps up, but again, I can't tell that it steps up. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? From this point to this point of the green is 8. So I'll come back 8. What happens here? It comes back towards the purple face of the object, 3. And it looks like, if I connect the dots, my object turned out just right, okay? In this case, on the top, there's something that I kind of did botch right here, and that's this line. You would see that edge all the way across, right? So I've just started with the footprint, but remember, this is a hard edge that I'll see. So what I'm going to do now is use my extend tool. You can find extend under trim, okay? But I never use it this way because once I toggle it on, it stays on extend, and I tend to use trim a lot more. So I use the hotkey for extend, EX spacebar. The method for extending stuff is, this is almost where you kind of have to ignore the command window. Just trust that what you do is this, I want this line to get to here. So what I do first is I pick where I want it to go, I right click, and then I pick what I want to go there. Okay. Now I'm not quite done, right? Because I see I have another edge right here that is 1, 2, 3, 4 parallel to this. So what I'm going to do is just use my offset tool again. O space actually comes up with 4 because that was the last number I used. So I click right here and I bring it over, and this part shouldn't be sticking out. So I trim, TR space, get used to that. Stop what you're doing, TR spacebar, right click, go there, and that object looks exactly like it should from the top. Okay. And then finally, I got to draw it from the front. Well, one thing you can do is borrow as much as you can. You know, instead of redrawing all this and counting and everything else, go ahead and borrow stuff. So this height is not going to change. The object is not going to get any taller at any point than you already drew it, right? We've already figured out that's a maximum of 8. Now, what's the widest this object ever gets is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so really we're starting with an 8 by 8 square. I'm just going to kind of do this one like holistically and sort of use offset and trim to get my way through the object. Okay, so I've drawn the 8 by 8 piece, and then let's work our way forward. If I go over 3, this block attaches, and it also attaches 2 down from the top. So what I'm going to do is offset 3 from the left. I'm going to hit offset, type in 2. I'm going to bring that down from the top. Now you can see up here where it's shaded yellow, there is no intersections or anything over here. It's one smooth yellow surface. So that's where I get to. Okay. Let's come back here. What happens next? From this edge, if I come down 3, I'm at the top of this last green surface. So I'm going to offset this 3. Now I've defined the top of this surface, and I only have one thing left to do. There's a little notch back in here. So in this yellow face and this yellow face is 2 back and 2 over from here. Well, I can't tell that it's 2 back, but I can tell that it is 2 over. So I offset that right side, and then I trim right there and right there. And that shows you the object, okay? If you're using my template file, which you guys should be, your text is already set up for you. If you click here under the A up on the ribbon, on the drop down, we'll never use single line text. I can only think of a couple cases where I use it. So if you click multi-line text, you're going to, I don't know why it's not popping up. You're going to go ahead and draw a window. Okay. And when you get there, your ribbon, at least in this portion, turns into a text editor. Now remember, in architecture and engineering, we're going to always use all caps. So this is going to be my front. Type in front, and again, your fonts were already set up for you. Now this is really, really small text. So instead of adjusting it with the text editor, which I could do, I could like double click it right here, highlight it, and you can see this is the text height. I just use the scale button to adjust it. So I click it, and I come up to my scale tool. It asks me for a base point. I just pick somewhere in the middle of the word. And let's say I want the text twice as big. I type in 2. Text, I'm going to select this and I'm going to put it on my dimension layer. I want to be able to turn that on and off. And this arrow out here, this is how much room I gave myself to type before it goes down to the next line. I'm just going to shrink that down. Okay. So now I can go ahead and instead of doing that all again, I've got my height the way I want it. So I'm just going to copy it, and I'm going to copy it right to here. And I'm going to copy it right to here. Okay. And now I'm just going to double click and edit that. Select it, type in top, click somewhere in outer space, you're done. Select this one. We now know that this is the left. So I type in left, and I'm done. Okay. So I'm going to save my drawing. Again, the way I'd like you guys to be turning these in would be to open a Google Doc or a Word doc and just create a new document. You can put it in landscape or portrait, whichever. This one I think would be better if I clicked layout and turned it into a landscape view. So the page is sideways. We'll get into a more technical way of doing this going forward after we get through these first couple. But what we're going to do then is come back to AutoCAD. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. I want to get it as big as I can first, and I'm going to use the Snip tool. Windows button, Shift, letter S. When you're there, your screen is going to darken, and you just go ahead and draw a box around what you want to snip, and you'll see it'll say Save to the Clipboard. So now you'll come back to your blank Word document, type in Control and letter V, and then drag this thing out and make it nice and big so I can see it and you can see it when you turn it in. Okay. Check that it's there. Does it look right? It looks right to me. So this one I'm not going to demo in class, and I think you have everything you need to go ahead and complete it. I might demo it in class. I don't know. But anyhow, hope that helps, and this will be posted for you here shortly.